Hey, Joe,
Go ahead.
Joe, what are you making of all of this Binance carry on from
Me?
your standpoint? Yeah.
I mean, the particular thing that I found troubling was just that movement of the money into the Binance US account to be able to, like, I guess, balance the balance sheets. It definitely looks like it's a total mess, like every other, crypto centralized exchange out there that scales. But I don't know how, to me, I don't know how they resolve all the stuff with, Binance.com and CZ and all of that. That some of that seems to be like civil penalty stuff to me, not, like criminal stuff from the way they wrote it up. But, it takes a while. I don't know. What do you, I mean, I know. What do you
Sean
think?
posted an article in the group today by the Block, basically saying that CZ was moved like 12 billion in
Yeah.
customer assets over. So, it's not looking good.
Yeah.
I think Sean is due a big fucking "I told you so" at this point. So.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no, no,
Yeah.
it's not that. I mean, look, my world is playing the central exchange game, and I'm not a fan of the SEC. They can go fuck themselves, yeah, and so on. But bad acting is bad acting.
Yeah.
Whether it's the SEC catches it or somebody else. But it's very FTX like. This 12 billion that's gone into trading firms owned by CZ. And
Yeah.
throw in the glamour, purchase of an 11 million yacht. And it's kind of curious.
I figured out our technical issue. Sorry, I
Yeah.
figured out our technical issue with Keith. He's trying to join from desktop. You can see that he's done quite a few Twitter Spaces. So, anyway, he's coming around, I guess.
Can you do those on desktop?
No, you
can
can listen, but
no.
you cannot. You can check in, but you can't check out.
Got it. Okay. But Sean, to the Binance point, I mean, I honestly haven't looked at prices in the last hour or so, but it just seems like everything kind of recovered and then settled in again, and everybody's waiting for the next thing, and but it's still not going to 10. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know what it's going to take to do that. I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out.
the thing are people, are assuming that price moves on news. And the truth of this is nothing has actually happened yet. I mean, what we have is a civil lawsuit. I've no doubt there will be a criminal lawsuit, because if you look at the only precedents we have here, which is BitMEX, which is we had a CFTC civil action followed by a DOJ criminal action. So this can take a while to play out, and I don't think that any of this should really have any impact on price just yet. I mean, it's when we learn the nature of what's going to actually happen to CZ and Binance that which can take months and months, maybe even years before there's a resolution.
And the SEC is not trying to shut down yet Binance.com. They're just trying to shut down Binance US. So, and it may be they never are able to even get close to shutting down Binance.com, but we'll see. Who knows? We have the one and only Keith Allen, one of my business partners at Material Indicators, materialindicators.com. You should go over there, and he's the guy that will take care of you. But he also has an illustrious career past until, we sucked him into crypto world of being an announcer for ESPN, for the X Games, for the Olympics, and pro fishing, and a bunch of other stuff. So, Keith, thank you for joining us today.
I saw that promo this morning, and I couldn't. It was the best Showmo promo you've ever had.
Thanks, man. Thanks. Well,
so I apologize for the tech support issue. Like, I don't know, Elon. I can't use this platform from my laptop.
No, you cannot. You are only permitted to use it for mobile.
So I guess so much for my fancy microphone and headset.
No, you're gonna have to wing it with the plugged in AirPod or iPod.
Hey, there's an idea.
Dude, the voice is still sexy either way.
Yeah, you still got that smooth, sexy voice. I told Hammy earlier that's probably the only reason you're still married. So
Think of it as, yeah. Think of it as about 2 hours into that beat the clock happy hour, and you're ready to go.
All right, so I'm Keith. I'm going to let you take it from here if you're ready, and we will get the rest of the show started. And Sean will drive right after that into your preposterous thesis. So we'll take it from there.
All right. Well, so is my audio okay on the phone?
Yeah,
Because
you're good.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold up your adoring fans
Oh,
any
yes.
longer. Okay. Just before this, just a general disclaimer and content warning, of course, that this event contains language not suitable for those under 3. Evangelical Christians, Gary Gensler, no coiners, shit coiners, Liz Warren, frauds pretending to be Satoshi Nakamoto, or Jim Cramer. Ladies and gentlemen, Maxis, shitcoiners, and Degens, this is the main event. BTC versus DeFi, the showdown of the century. You'll tell your grandkids about this epic battle, the rumble and the bumble, the swoon at noon, the ultimate smackdown between BTC Maxi, XBT3D, also sometimes known as XT6D, and Swantoshi, and his arch nemesis, DeFi Degen, BO5 Crypto. Just one of many nicknames I've given him over the years. Stay tuned as BTC Maxi pummels the DeFi world by declaring that every single experiment in this space is a total failure. But don't count out the Degen as he tries to explain to the aging crypto OG that just because he's done doesn't mean the experiments are done. Stay tuned to see if one side can leave this argument as the clear winner, or you just leave saying, fuck all, because you've sacrificed an hour of your life that you'll never get back. Without further ado, your host, BO5 Crypto, Brad Nickel.
All right, well, you're going to have to do every one from now
Fuck it,
on.
that was
man.
great. Can we?
Let's
that was great. Can we
go!
stop now?
Let's end on a positive note.
We just need like the people walking around the ring with the play card that's holding up like round 1.
Yeah.
She's here in my office.
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
have that?
No, I don't have one of those, man. Can you send me one?
Nope. Get your
Can
own.
you tell Keith's wife is out of town? All right. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate it. You have a permanent job for every show now.
Thanks,
all right.
buddy.
So Sean is, for those of you joining the spaces that don't listen to the show regularly, shame on you. Join our community, t.me/mission DeFi on Telegram. Sean is our regular Thursday prognosticator, Bitcoin Maxi, philosopher, just about everything for us in terms of bringing actual intelligence, analysis, and insights to the show. So Sean and I were talking about what would be the show topic for this week. And Sean, you said?
I said, why don't we acknowledge the fact that every shitcoin is a failure?
Wait, you went further than that. You said every experiment in crypto, non-Bitcoin, has been a failure.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing I said is that if you go all the way back, you'll see that there was a lot of support in the early Bitcoin community, a bit different than the current one, for, and I'm going to just say this because I know it upsets people. I'm using the term shitcoin. It is a term. It is a term of endearment. Okay. When I say shitcoin, I mean everything under number 1 on CoinMarketCap. Okay.
Yes, we know. We've had some complaints.
So it's which I get as well. The people who are complaining also, call Bitcoin boomer coins. So hey, but my fundamental point was that look, in the early days, altcoins, shitcoins, whatever you want to call them, were kind of encouraged. I would say actively encouraged, because the view was that they were test beds, experiments in certain aspects of things to see what would work and what might be suitable to put into Bitcoin at a later date. So I think that it's not a bad time. So that goes back, I think the first kind of shitcoins go back, 10, 12 years. And it's probably not a bad time that if we look at them and we go, well, has anything really actually, any of these experiments, which I view them all as still, and that's in my more generous mood, okay, actually proved anything of worth or value.
Is that specifically towards worth of value of Bitcoin or just in general?
In general, because by the way, you know, I mean, the other thing we have to acknowledge is Bitcoin itself is an experiment,
Sure.
yeah, and we should also be critical of what it's done, and so on. But I'm kind of going, if we take Bitcoin out of the equation for the minute and we look from 2 down to 37,800 on the shitcoin list, you know, 10 to 12 years into this wacky experiment, okay, has the experiment been worth it? Have we managed to demonstrate anything whatsoever that has any value add to anything outside of, you know, a bit of fun chasing meme coins?
Well, okay. So before.
And my thesis, by the way, just in case there's any surprise, is
Yes,
zero.
I don't think I think we all were assuming that was the answer. Now, you know, in order to make sure that we have kind of some definitional clarity, what well, let's just do it this way. What about the Bitcoin experiment has been a success in your mind?
Well, I think that it is okay. So, and again, I'm going to be completely frank. I think Bitcoin has yet to deliver on the dream, and the dream being the separation of state and money. I think it's still an improbable outcome. Okay. But I think its trajectory is positive. I think that it has fought and stood up to nation state oppression. I think that in terms of adoption, we now have over 1 million whole coiners and lots more part coiners. It's not without its problem. It does suffer from, like anything like this, it suffers from kind of its own internal culture wars. But ultimately, so far, it's on track to have a shot at delivering what it set out to deliver. I think its ultimate success right now, if I was to say what is really Bitcoin achieved right now, I'd say it's achieved a huge thing, which has no commercial value whatsoever directly, and that is that there's a whole generation of people that question what money is because of Bitcoin. So I think that in itself is a huge victory, and I don't think that would have happened without
absolutely
Bitcoin.
You're absolutely, I totally give you that. Totally give you that is absolutely a success of Bitcoin, because it's done it for all of us, right? I mean, you know, every single one of us in this, well, I shouldn't say every single one of us, most of us in this space, except for the folks that came in and bought friggin' Cardano first or something, came in and were introduced first and foremost to Bitcoin. So I can give you that success metric. I think that makes a ton of sense. Now, inherent in your saying that everything else has failed, I would assume, but that is your definition of failed is that they cannot and will not ever be able to achieve the separation of money and state as that being the end goal.
Well, I would look at it a bit differently. I'd go, first of all, what are the experiments? Yeah, and we can question whether the experiments are worthy experiments, but what experiments have we tried? Has the space, which is a horrible thing because again, you know, we're all in this together is a bizarre attitude when of the 40,000 cryptos, even the most ardent shitcoiner will go, yeah, but like the bottom 10,000 are scams. So like, we're not all in this together. We all have, you know, selection processes over which part we believe is real crypto. But I'll give you the way I look at this. I mean, I think we had some really valuable experiments in privacy. I think we've had some really valuable experiments in decentralized app platforms. I think that the DAO was an interesting experiment, and I think proof of stake was an interesting experiment. And I think they've all fallen flat in their face.
Okay, so
No. And by the way, I'm not saying this to be controversial. at all. I think if we are objectively to look at that, and maybe I've missed a few things, but in general, we had privacy experiments, we've had, DApp platform experiments, we've had DAOs, and we've had proof of stake, and I don't think any of these is either a success or even notably on the road to success. I think they've all failed, and I think that if this is a space that wants to be honest with itself, which primarily it doesn't, by the way, but if it wants to be honest with itself, maybe it's time to reflect on why I think they've failed, and maybe there's something that can be done to make them not fail.
Well, okay, so here's my first response. I will give you that Bitcoin has helped people learn about how money works and understand the manipulation of fiat and how all of that works, and it's been a success at that. Introducing a whole generation or group of people to those concepts and to the concept of Bitcoin and blockchain, I think are absolutely critical, and that is a success. I will say that Ethereum and some other EVM chains, though, have, first of all, the experiments are still ongoing. Bitcoin's been at it for 14 years, and really not much has changed in that 14 years for Bitcoin. And that's as we've talked about before, a feature of the system, right? It's meant to be slow, and it's meant to be fairly boring. And so we get it. Although I've been having a lot of fun with these, the manipulations of the block space of late with the BRC20s and the ordinals.
Yep.
And I think that is also energizing a lot of enthusiasm and activity around Bitcoin, which is a plus. I've always said I want more DeFi-like functionality to come to Bitcoin. And so I think this starts to open minds and doors to that.
Can I stop you there if we're into the definition game? Because I've said this to you 100 times, man. People use terms like Web3 and
Yes.
DeFi, and I'm still scratching my head going, what the fuck does that actually mean? What is
So
DeFi?
DeFi for me is financial applications, the freedom to build them and the freedom to use them and the freedom to invest your money in any kind of financial application that you can imagine that makes use of the blockchain to secure transactions.
But so would you consider Bitcoin
Yes.
DeFi?
Yes.
Cool.
When I say big DeFi coming to Bitcoin, I think of it more along the line of functional applications coming to Bitcoin.
Like the ability to send money back.
Well, of course, that's
being the ultimate base layer of
that is
DeFi.
the base layer of obviously money and value. Absolutely. And it does that. But right now, it can do more with smart contracts on layer 2s, but the Bitcoin chain itself obviously can't. And so from my perspective, the smart contract chains, the chains that have other functionality, have succeeded because they have introduced people to financial tools and investing options and investing strategies that are not necessarily available to them in the fiat world. And for me, that's the kind of
on that, Brad, can we acknowledge that it's the apps that are built on these, what I classify as app platforms or smart contract platforms or whatever you want to call them, that are of interest, yeah?
Yes, the ability to have the apps and functionally do investing in financial transactions, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So like, and again, I'm not, so again, I'm probably a bit more fundamentalist on this because I go, sure, people can go off and do smart apps. They can do them in SQL or whatever.
Sure.
Okay. But I'm kind of going, the platforms themselves are to me a transparent failure. Okay. And I think that, anything built on them, fine. Look, you can port it somewhere else. I mean, this concept of because what are we comparing this to? Okay, so let's take an app platform and we go like Ethereum, the biggest one, and everything else is EVM compliant, more or less. Okay, I would say that EVM is shockingly pointless thing, and that if I was an app developer, okay, I would be much better served running my apps on AWS than on Ethereum. I would end up with a better app, a more capable app, okay, a more reliable app, and I don't have to buy Amazon shares to operate.
Right, but you would
I'm
require
going to
the user.
say that Ethereum itself is all of these smart contract platforms have just proved to be completely pointless.
Okay, well, so first of all, you would, with your app on AWS, require me to trust you. So that's the big hole in that concept. Whereas with much of what's happening in the smart contract world, I can see what's there, and I don't have to trust you, and I don't have to trust the functionality of what's going on behind the scenes in an opaque AWS server when I'm transacting and doing financial initiatives on the Ethereum blockchain. So I think it has.
Okay, so I get it, but let's break that down a minute. So we're going to go, look, I can build an app on AWS. Okay, it's low cost, it's fast. It has some downsides, and the downsides are trust. Okay, you can go open source or any of that kind of stuff, but ultimately it's also not decentralized. It's distributed. Yeah. Okay. So then, what we're saying is that for all the horrendously limited functions of an Ethereum virtual machine, okay, what we're really gaining here is censorship resistance.
Sure.
Would that be okay? And I'm going, that compromise, I would argue that it's censorship resistant at all, because I think we have examples where structurally the app developers, okay, are themselves centralized. We see this because they're tech companies funded,
Of course,
and so
there are
that
some.
it's
There
not
are
just
some that are, and there are some that are not. Look at Liquidity, completely decentralized and completely released onto the chain and can't be changed or altered. And they were actually VC funded.
unless Ethereum.
Well,
kicked them
of
off,
course,
yeah?
unless Ethereum kicked them off. But I don't think we have time today to get into the to our normal back
No,
and
no,
forth on proof of stake.
No, but this is fundamental to it. So we're going, look, people go off and build apps in EVM. I think that its Turing completeness is a huge risk factor that people don't consider. I think its lack of memory is disastrous, and it's limiting and slow. Okay, so I would say this. I loved
But
the
those things
concept
don't make it.
of
Those things don't make an experiment a failure.
then how do you define
No,
failure?
I think it's more important how I define experiment, right? An experiment
Okay.
is a thesis, a
Well, an experiment
hypothesis.
has to have a result. An experiment has a result at the end
Of
of it, right?
course,
Yeah? I mean, the result is
Bitcoin's had 14 years and you said it's not done. So, how long does it take till Bitcoin has a purpose, right? And separates money from state? Or do we just call it a failure at year 15, right? We don't, of course not. Because we know that it's an evolving thing and that it requires adoption and it requires.
well, it's not. I mean, I would argue that Bitcoin isn't evolving, and that's its evolution.
Well,
That's
actually,
the
it is
smart bit about it.
evolving
But
because Taproot has caused it to evolve into something where NFTs are being stored on chain and people are building applications around the capability.
I think the first NFT transaction was 2010 on
I
Bitcoin.
get it,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
Taproot has evolved, made the chain evolve to make it easier for people to do these kinds of things, and that's an evolution, right? But
I tell you, so again, like, let's just deal with that one issue, okay? 5 years ago, we had SegWit and Taproot, and people have found a purpose for it, and that's grand. And I'm not anti-ordinals, I'm not pro-ordinal. I'm genuinely totally agnostic on it. It's an interesting little experiment of its own right. Let's see what happens, okay? I have my views on it. My primary reason that I'm anti BRC20s and all of this is not because of what they're doing, it's because of the associated grit.
of course,
But I'll put that aside. Okay. But my point is that we can very clearly look at these decentralized virtual machines, okay, which have existed out there. And we can say that I think we can say with absolute confidence, okay, that they have failed at every level. They've failed at being decentralized, they failed at actually being useful, and they failed at competing, and will continue to fail with competing at other app platforms out there. And that the only differentiator that we can spoof about them is this censorship-resistant nonsense, which just isn't true. So the only
Well,
true
no.
narrative
The other narratives
differentiator.
These are trustless platforms. I don't have to trust anyone to have created an app. I can examine.
You have to trust Ethereum. You have
Yes,
to trust Ethereum.
again, I do trust Ethereum, but I don't
But
have to.
that kind of proves
I
my
don't
point,
have to
Brad.
trust Ethereum.
You
I don't have to trust Ethereum.
Well, you just said you do. Otherwise, you can't run.
But I trust the model for
the-
how Ethereum functions, right? And so do people
Okay,
putting billions of dollars into decentralized, trustless applications on that chain. And so,
Brad, if I may,
yeah, go ahead.
If I may, and I didn't know I was going to have to officiate this SmackDown, but I just thought I was going to do the intro. But I think what Brad is saying, Sean, is that they are experiments. They have not failed yet. They just have not succeeded yet. And what Sean is saying, if the one piece, the fundamental piece that you have to trust is Ethereum, fuck off.
Yes.
It's a failure.
And that's, look, I mean, Sean and I have had that discussion 100 times, but my real point here is that I actually think Ethereum has succeeded in a lot of ways. They have succeeded.
For example,
I'm going to give you a list. It has succeeded in helping people realize that they can take part in financial applications that they're not permitted to take part in the fiat world. And they're doing it every day to the tunes of billions of dollars. It has helped developers realize that they can create computational, functional, financial, trustless applications that people can utilize, and they can make a lot of money on it, and other people can invest and make money on. So it has succeeded on those two fronts. It has succeeded.
Can I address both of those?
Well, let me finish the list, and then you can address them.
Okay.
It has succeeded in creating a movement to alter the way that organizations are structured and operated and managed. And while you could maybe make the argument that Bitcoin did a little bit of that with kind of the decentralization of developers, really the formations and the experiments around DAOs are an amazing experiment that have not failed. There have been DAOs that have failed, but they have not failed, and they actually are having an impact on how people operate and think about structuring businesses and organizations and profit motives and building them. So I think all of those things are successes of the experiment. And I also think we are way, way early in all of these experiments to call them a failure. I know that on Ethereum, artists who were making 30 or 40 bucks for commissioning a piece of art for someone are clearing 30, 40, 50, 60, $100,000 for their artwork, where they could never have done that before. And now they're able to live and eat. And that's a success of Ethereum. So I think all of those things are successes of Ethereum.
Can I do a rebuttal of this?
Yes, you may.
Okay. So, first of all, I mean, the NFT thing could just have easily have taken off a centralized Amazon web service.
No,
not
at all. I
question
disagree completely.
You're allowed to disagree and be wrong, dude. Okay. Okay. I would say what Ethereum has actually proven is everything that's wrong with money in the real world. Okay, which is decentralization of power based on wealth. Okay, and I think that both the DAO and proof of stake are the ultimate example of how something that starts off with one model of fairness, okay, ends up in a place of a model of absolute unfairness. So for me, that's an absolute failed experiment. Okay, is that what we see is a classic case of greed for the early shareholders, greed for the most wealthy, winning through. And so that's why I think anything proof of stake, anything DAO-based is fundamentally just about the power of wealth. Okay, and so I mean, you know, I was an early Ethereum person. I kind of loved the idea. I did love the idea of that. You know, I'm not arguing with the objective that Ethereum et al. Sent out. I'm saying the experiment has actually demonstrated clearly, okay, and to me incontrovertibly that that this lack of decentralization leads to control by wealth and power.
Okay.
And I think the DAO is exactly the same.
So look, the DAO isn't what I was talking about. The DAO happened 7 years ago.
The DAO model,
No, but the DAO, that was not what the DAO model is now, right? And so
yeah,
and
no,
so
the model of the DAO is again, it's a, you know, and we see this.
the model
okay,
of the
which is, you
original
know,
DAO was to be a
VC,
venture capital firm. That was the model of the original DAO.
yeah.
That is not what I'm talking
But
about.
again, you're not addressing the point I'm saying that, okay, if you want to take out the DAO for now, or DAOs for now, and discuss those separately, I'd say the failure of Ethereum is the fact that it started here, okay, with, I would say, quite noble ambitions. I do think it had massive birth defects, but it's ended up in a place where it's controlled by the wealthy. Okay, and for me, that's the ultimate failure of Ethereum.
Yeah, but I don't have any evidence that it is controlled by the wealthy, right? We can make the assertions that the pre-sale people have a lot of Ethereum staked, but we don't have any evidence that these people are actually controlling what happens on the chain or what gets deployed.
How did it move to proof of stake?
It moved to proof of stake through the developers developing it, putting forward the proposals, and getting.
And would you acknowledge that proof of stake is more beneficial to the large bag holders than anybody else?
Not proportionally. Everybody gets the same percentage.
Okay, except unless you've got a lot of Ethereum and you want to play the MEV game.
Well, of course, yeah. If you want to play the MEV game, of course, that's a whole different argument.
So I mean, the move from Ethereum, from, you know, and I would argue that every single change that Ethereum has made, and remember, this has pivoted, you know, more times than I've had a cigarette today, and that's a lot, okay, has been at the behest and to the benefit of the large stakeholders at the detriment of the smaller stakeholders.
What's been the detriment? What's been the detriment of the small stakeholders? I'm a small stakeholder in Ethereum. I haven't had any detriment to any of the actions by the foundation, and I frankly think that what they're doing and what has happened on the developers and the proposals and the process of approving those has benefited Ethereum.
Okay, so again, let's go back to the social contract that was Ethereum at the beginning, and miners. And I know what you're going to say. Miners knew well that this was coming. I was mining Ethereum in 2017, okay, and I was told back then that you know that in 3 months or 6 months, mining is gone. I've got to scratch my head and go, you know, do I continue to invest in this, and so on and so on. I think when you look at what happened to mining rewards, et cetera, but the point is that because Ethereum has changed, okay, and from what it changed from to what it changed to, we can see the results of the experiment, and the results of the experiment are absolutely clear. The results of the experiment are that the rich get richer.
Okay.
So that's why
the poor get richer, right? It's an equal playing field. I can have my Ethereum, and I'm still going to earn on the proof of stake if I want to stake it.
And you're at the whim, okay, of as has happened multiple times over the course of Ethereum, too many times to mention. Okay, you're at the whim of somebody else. So when we talk about trustless, but the experiment is run, dude. I mean, you have to look at how these decisions were made over the years, and there are fuck tons of them, and go, is this truly a censorship-resistant, trustless, decentralized platform? And I'm going, no. And then I go back to my initial point, which is a very simple point, which is the benefits touted for an app developer versus the absolute disastrous of trying to do anything in EVM okay, from a technical standpoint, from a cost standpoint, and so on, mean that at every level it's failed. It's just, this is an experiment where it's an experiment in human greed, as far as I'm concerned, and the results are absolutely.
Okay, well, first of all, I will tell you that you're going to see every aspect of money is human greed. And that's true of people like Corey Clipston and Michael Saylor, who are complete and total hypocrites on the Bitcoin side and who are just trying to protect their bags because they're greedy. So they're not true philosophers. They don't believe in freedom. So Bitcoin has their plenty of greed-based taint.
And can I ask you, if you want to play that card, can I ask you what changes they've made to Bitcoin that causes them to have any influence whatsoever?
They've harmed the brand of Bitcoin because they're the loudest and most prominent
but what
of
they've harmed the brand in your opinion? I'm just wondering what bits they've got through, how they've changed the protocol, or done
I don't
anything
think
to
they
suit
have
themselves.
because nobody has changed it.
Well,
yes,
there you go.
Absolutely not.
Yes.
And I'm not saying they have. What I'm saying is, though, to make greed the marker of failure is a ridiculous concept when it comes to talking about money. So
no, I said no, Brad. I was saying the consequences of the changes to Ethereum are the result.
Yeah, but
of
we
greed.
don't have any
there is. There is. We can look at what happened, for fuck's sake. Every single change was more beneficial to the big stakeholders, gave them more power, more control. Experiment done.
But
I'm not
that's
interested.
not the case because the benefits are equal for everyone participating in the network.
They're not.
How are
They're
they?
absolutely.
How do I? If I have 10,000 Ethereum and you have one,
but first of all, sorry for you.
How are you making more money on Ethereum than I am?
How are decisions made?
But the decisions are made through the proposal process, through developers looking at it, through the entire community examining it, and then through whether or not it gets approved on the chain. Just the same system.
And let's focus on that bit. Yeah, who has historically proposed most things? Okay, and which proposals have been accepted, and how did they get support?
I don't know all the.
Joe Lubin, Vitalik.
I don't know all the details.
Joe Lubin,
What's
Vitalik.
that?
Joe Lubin and Vitalik. I mean, that's
okay. So
fact,
now you're going to argue that.
But dude, look, if I get the point. If you've not done your research for this debate, that's just fine.
Are you going to argue now that Vitalik is greed motivated and thus every change he's done has been to benefit himself? Is that what you're saying?
I would say he's power motivated, 100%.
Okay, so you think that the changes he has put into Ethereum are only to increase his power over Ethereum?
Only to increase his power over other people in Ethereum, yes, 100%.
All right. Well, I mean, I think there'd be a lot of folks.
But by just looking at history, I'm just looking at the history.
Okay, so we at least have. I'll just accept it for now, but it's not true. But we'll accept now for that most of the changes on Ethereum were driven by Vitalik, and so now we're not talking.
The people who had the 70%.
So now we're not talking about
people who had the 70% pre-mined.
We're not talking about greed now. Now we're talking about power. So.
Oh, the same thing, dude. Same thing.
It's not the same thing. It's not even close to the same thing. They're two completely different things.
Greed for power is the same as greed for money. It's just the basic human motivation.
It's actually not, because power is one thing. Greed for money doesn't mean you have to have power. You can just want to be wealthy. So those are two different things, right? All right. Okay. So I'm going to go back to what I said, and we're going to go back through my list again about why Ethereum has succeeded. Okay, Ethereum is
okay, but I mean, my fundamental premise on Ethereum is that it is it has failed by definition, because we just see the whole thing about, like, what is any of this meant to be about? I think you said it: censorship resistance, trustless, and so on. Yes, and I'm saying that the history of Ethereum demonstrates that it's not censorship resistant or trustless. Its fundamental basis, the experiment over that, since when it was at 20, God, I'm forgetting that awful day in history when it started. Okay, that, like, however, like a decade later, yeah, I think that experiment's run. Humans are shitty.
Well, humans are
Yes, I
shitty
think
in every aspect
I
of
think the
life.
experiment is
You're
run.
not going to change that with the
Sorry.
technology. Humans will be shitty, right? That's the whole point.
Yeah, but the whole
And
point is that the whole point of
here,
trustlessness and censorship
here,
resistance is to take those aspects of humanity
I get
out
it.
of things that
I
matter.
totally, that's what I said. That's why I said that's the point,
Yeah.
right? That's the whole point. And we know that Bitcoin was centralized for a very long time. We know that it had multiple,
How long? That's interesting.
multiple,
How long was it How long was it
well,
centralized
at
for,
least the
Brad?
first couple of years. And we
Okay.
know that it had multiple clusterfucks of bugs and problems, and
Yeah.
money almost lost and people harmed. So we know
Yeah.
that it had to grow, and we also know that it has the advantage of not changing and just laying there and doing nothing, right? And
Okay.
so and it serves, and wait, let me
Let's
finish.
take that model.
And it
Okay.
serves that purpose well, and it has a role in this world of blockchains and decentralization that is incredibly important. I wouldn't want it to do anything differently. I want us to be able to experiment on Ethereum and Phantom and Avalanche and even the piece of shit Solana. I want us to have all of these experiments, because all of these experiments that have not failed and that are not done, all of them have to evolve. All of them have to work.
Again,
All,
dude, how long are you prepared to see failure
until they
continue
die.
before?
Until they die. I don't give a shit. It's an
What's your
experiment, Sean.
definition of
It's an
die?
experiment. That's the whole point of our conversation. It's a big fucking experiment that evolves and that people evolve.
And what is that an experiment in,
What's
dude?
that?
What is an experiment in? This is the bit I don't
Well,
get.
I just listed for you all of the things that it's done as an experiment.
What you said is what you're discussing are the apps developed on
Yeah,
X as being the
I could
experiment.
talk about the fact
I'm
that
discussing the
the
experiment of X.
chain is evolving, that changes are being implemented, that the way governance happen is changing, that the way that people deploy and do things on the chain is changing, and it's not just Ethereum, it's Phantom, it's Avalanche, it's Solana, it's
Yeah.
it's every chain that exists, and all of them are important experiments to advance financial freedom, to show people another way of existing and living and making money and exchanging and interacting with people. And on
Okay.
all of those things,
Can I answer some of that?
all
Because
of
what you're
those
doing
things,
is classic
have been,
shitcoinery layered arguments.
no,
Okay.
all of those things,
Which you are. So you go, oh, it's about decentralization, and then. Okay.
yes.
And all of this is just layered. It's all layered,
Well,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
it's layers.
Because when you realize the first layer is utter bollocks,
Well,
that's another
but I
Irish
don't
word.
agree with you
Okay.
that it's utter bollocks, right? So that's a
It's not
commercial
my fault,
problem.
dude. I'm not responsible for you being
I know,
wrong,
and
Brad.
I'm not responsible for you being wrong, Sean. So the point here is this: for me, my definition of an experiment, my definition of how technology evolves, having been in tech for 26 years, having been at the
Mhm.
beginning of the commercialization of the internet, I know how these things happen. I know we go through cycles.
Right.
I know we go through stupidity. I know we go through cults. I know we go through all kinds of stupid shit and all kinds of really cool shit. And my goal,
Can I counter? Can
if
I
I can
counter that,
just
Brad? Yeah.
finish, my goal,
Oh, go on then.
with the experiment is to help people realize financial freedom, a different way of operating, getting to decentralization, letting people understand that they don't have to trust other people, letting people understand that they can have new ways of making money and evolving, and letting people understand that there are new ways for the world to function and organize together. All of those things have been
Okay.
a tremendous success on EVM chains, all of them.
Okay, I'm first of all, I'm going to do the kudos thing. But having been in the tech development world for 40 fucking
Yes.
years, okay, okay, constantly, okay, so I just have to get that bit out. Okay, and secondly, I'm going to go that if you don't look at the direction of travel of the base chain, okay, if you honestly believe that Ethereum is on the path to decentralization, you have decided to ignore reality, okay? and that's okay. I mean, it's a free world, okay? But I don't, the thing I would say about most shitcoiners, and I was a shitcoiner, and I'm still going to play the shitcoin game if we ever get a bull market again. Don't get me wrong, okay? Quite happy to put some casino chips on the table. Is that they view, and I think this is a fundamental difference, is that when I look at the world of shitcoinery, what I see is a bunch of really enthusiastic people, yeah? Like, really, and I love that. And don't get me wrong, I love it. But I also see a bunch of people who are not critical thinkers, okay? So it's primarily a bunch of people who are techies, okay, who look at all of this and look at the cool stuff that they could do, and that's fine, and we should encourage that, and I've nothing wrong with that. But they don't look at these things holistically or stand back or have any context to it. There's very limited critical thinking in the world of shitcoins. In fact, I'm unaware of any. And so, again, look, we both know this debate. Neither of us is going to, at the end of it, go, fuck me, I'm an S-Maxi now, you've convinced me, Brad.
Correct.
Okay? and I'm not going to convince you that POS means piece of shit. Okay, but what I am going to say is that sometimes you need to step back after a decade, and Bitcoiners need to do this as well on our own little Bitcoin thing. Okay, I'm not against that at all, and go, is the direction of travel towards what you're talking about? And that we can look at all the shiny toys, the apps and all that. I'm not interested in that, because they're just built on a foundation of absolute, utter, failed nonsense, in my opinion.
Okay, so the lack of analytical thinking in the world of shitcoinery is the lack of analytical thinking in the whole world, right? But I would disagree with you fundamentally that doesn't happen in this space, because I follow and interact with people every day who are logical, brilliant, analytical, examining. They're critical. They're not cultists. They're not religious about it. They, just like I'm not. I always seem with you to be in a position of trying to defend Ethereum's problems, but that's not what I'm here for. My role here is to move the space forward to more competition, more innovation, more open markets. And if we had it the way that the Bitcoiners wanted it, there would be none of that.
Can I interject on that? This idea of Bitcoiners, yeah, because we all see, and again, you could very well be right on the shitcoin community, okay, but by and large, we're looking at the players and communities, as we call them, which is a weird fucking word, and it's a big cultist in and of itself, through the lens of Twitter, okay? So when we talk about communities, okay, and Bitcoiners and shitcoiners or S-Maxis and all of this, first of all, we have to acknowledge that we're looking at whatever the Twitter algo has decided is going to pump our adrenaline.
Well,
the
actually,
most.
I don't use,
Okay.
I never interact with the Twitter algorithm. I have complete control over my feed, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, but we like the Corey clip and things and all this, and I would equally say that these communities have huge amounts of crossover, because I know a lot of Bitcoiners, or people who hold Bitcoin, if we want to put it in that terms, who also hold shitcoin. I mean, I'm holding some shitcoin, yeah, and again, I'm fine with that, and yet you'll go, oh, but the Maxis are screaming on Twitter, and I'm going, look, well, whatever about that. The fundamental point of Bitcoin, and I argue with Bitcoiners about this all the time, the fundamental point of Bitcoin is freedom. If you want to put some of your Bitcoin on a centralized exchange, flip it into whatever shitcoin 58, okay, that's fine. You're free to do so. Okay, I think that responsible Bitcoiners will at least point out, hey, buddy, have you thought of this? And so on and so on. Okay, so first of all, I don't think that when we talk about Bitcoiners and everybody mentions Sailor and all of this, that they're just really a thing. I think there are people, the vast majority of people, the million plus who own over one coin, and the tens of millions, I think, who own less than one coin, okay, are not reflected by the people loudest on Twitter or the people we follow.
Yeah, I mean, that's true of any
Okay,
community, right?
Yeah. So this idea that develops and I was at my first ever after 13 years Bitcoin conference a couple of weeks ago, and I've got to say I was largely horrified by it, but that's neither here nor there. The beer was cold after it. Okay.
I thought you only drank the warm beer. Um,
Dude. No, that's no. Guinness is never served. Oh, you fucking Billy Bum.
I've never had anything but cold beer, so I'll never understand it.
But again, back to the point. Communities aside and views aside, I completely stand by what I'm saying is that the fundamental proof, Ethereum and wannabe chains are by the definitions of what they set out to achieve failed. And how much longer does the market want to give them is up to the market. I don't, whatever. People can collect baseball cards and you 100%. But equally, that doesn't mean that we can't, be more thoughtful about it and go, look, if 100,000 people want to go off and buy Solana tomorrow, good luck to them. Yeah, we go, look, I'm personally go, here's why I don't think you should, blah. But free world's going to do it. Yeah. But my point is that we can't take in kind of mass psychosis and go into the equation. We're either going to be objective and say that objectively Ethereum et al. Have not only failed on their mission, but have actually proven that their objective, they've done completely the opposite of their fundamental objectives, which was decentralization. It's ever more centralizing, okay, and so on. And so move on.
Okay.
Like for me, that's it. Again, and I'm not arguing that Bitcoin doesn't get flipped by Ethereum. That's not my point at all. My point is that what I know for a fact is in my world, what I'm 100% confident of is that in 10 years, all of this shit is gone. Yeah, maybe sooner.
Yeah. So I think you're wrong. And obviously, I also think my objectivity is superior to your objectivity. But we both have our.
Is that objectively true?
No, neither is yours. But I mean, that's what you're intimating, right? Is that none of us that support this experiment continuing to be an experiment are being objective, and none of us.
I think you're not being critical enough about it.
I am absolutely critical, and I'm critical all the time. You can check my Twitter feed about all of the things that happen in this space that I'm critical about on a regular basis.
But I'm a great follower of yours and an excellent follow for anybody who wants to follow anybody in the space, and we are friends. So but what I would equally say is, it seems to me that most of your criticism is at the app level, not at the base layer. And I'm not interested in the apps. The apps can run on AWS for all I care.
But they can't. They can't they can't and be successful at what we're trying to do. Right? That's the whole point.
No, but and here's my point. They can't and be successful at what you're trying to do on Ethereum. This is why it always comes back to the base layer.
But they can, and they have already succeeded at the things that I mentioned they've succeeded at. Yes, they have. They absolutely have, Sean. You cannot deny that people have been introduced to new financial tools and new financial applications that they are not permitted to use in the fiat world. You cannot deny that people are examining new ways of organizing and forming organizations and utilizing blockchain to do it, and democratizing things and experimenting at a rapid pace. You cannot deny that artists have found a new stream of revenue and have found new people and new fans that love the work they do, and they have boosted their careers and made more of it.
And you cannot deny that would have been more efficient, cheaper, and with less stolen money if it was running on AWS.
It would have never happened on AWS. That's the whole point. It's because it's the blockchain, and it's the concept of how this works. You can't do that on AWS.
5 years after Taproot. 5 years after Taproot was introduced, all of a sudden a bunch of Bitcoiners want to put JPEGs on Bitcoin.
We've had since 1996 at the commercialization of the internet for people to make fucking money selling art online, and they haven't done it. And guess what? Ethereum came along and they did. So that's the point. That's the point. Those are the successes of this experiment. And those are the successes that are happening on all of the EVM chains. And all of the experimentation is a success. Every failure is a success in the experiment. Every time,
So,
every
the quarter of billion
yes,
stolen is a success.
absolutely. Because guess what? Every
Okay.
fucking
Yeah.
person affected by that learned really valuable lessons. And that's and here's the bottom line on this.
Dude, come on. You
I
can't say that.
absolutely can say that. I have
Oh, well, you did say it. Of course you
I've
can say it.
fucking
Yeah.
lost money like that because I was a complete fucking idiot, and that's a valuable lesson. And I'm not going to get that in the nanny state of fiat, and I'm not going to get it with the Bitcoiners that are loudest on Twitter who all want to squelch and shut down competition of EVM chains, and they justify it by saying, "Oh wait,
Okay.
let me finish."
No. Because again, you're layering it. You're
No,
kind
but
of going,
wait.
because Michael Saylor or Corey, none of these people
I
represent
didn't say
Bitcoin. They
that.
hold
What did I
Bitcoin.
just say? I said the loudest
What?
on Twitter. And that's what I'm talking about. Those people want to squelch competition. They don't want other things competing for attention with their bags. And they are greed motivated. And that's their right. They're absolutely right to do it.
Yeah.
And they can do it. And
So
it's
what?
fine. The point is that all of this experimentation, all of the bad behavior, all of these things are things that involve humans and involve the experiment of crypto and Bitcoin and blockchain. And all of them.
That's my alarm going off. 1 second, guys. Sorry. Sorry about that. A flood of S Maxis broken downstairs. They didn't get past the pit bulls or the crocodiles. Okay.
Well, look, I think to wrap this up, I obviously has been the case for a few years now between you and me. We're not going to always agree on everything. And I think you and I agree on fundamental philosophies of what we want to accomplish in the world, and whether or not we think the vehicles for getting there are the right ones or not, we're going to disagree on, and that's probably never going to change, at least to your satisfaction, unless I could become a Bitcoin maxi. So,
No,
I'm just
Brett.
playing with you,
That's a
Sean. I'm just
completely.
playing with you, man. I'm not serious.
Look. I would love to see the original Ethereum vision delivered. Yeah. Okay. And any of the Bitcoin Maxi buddies listening to this, I'm going to say quite simply, I'm fucking free to want that to happen.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm not looking at this standing on the hill going, Bitcoin only, fuck everything else in any way, shape or form. But I also have to look at what's happened. And I think, to me, it's just the billions and billions of dollars stolen that I cannot overlook. Okay, including in Bitcoin land. Okay.
But that's not exclusive to this space, Sean.
No. I understand that. Okay, but I'm also going to go back and say where Brad was saying, well, people never had the experience to experiment with this kind of stuff again. I'm going to go, well, yeah, we kind of did. We had penny stocks, we had all the FX scams, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah. So I don't.
I'm not talking about just speculation. I'm talking about financial applications for many in the United States that are not permitted to, or financial applications that people who don't have enough money are not allowed to participate in the financial system.
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about.
And again, I think that's laudable. And again, I'm not, because there's a problem. I think many of the apps are irresponsible. Yeah. Okay. Clearly they are, because we can look at the history, but many of them, their objectives are laudable. And I'm going, look, whatever. I just think that they're running on platforms that are massively failed experiments. Okay. And I think that some critical thinking about where we are in space, including for Bitcoin. I'm not precluding Bitcoin from this conversation. I'm just saying that since we're here discussing shitcoin land, I think that it's just so transparent to me that this is one big clusterfuck, and the reason I bring it up now is this. There's this narrative going around, that we're all in this together, and we're not. Yeah, and that's not Bitcoin versus Ethereum or Bitcoin versus shitcoins. It's everybody versus some segment of the crypto world. Yeah. So you don't like Sol, that's okay. You may look at Hex and go, it's a scam. So, you know, we all draw lines here, whether we're prepared to acknowledge it or not. My lines are a bit tighter than most, okay? And so we can all look at things and make an objective decision as to whether or not we think that's just a pure scam, and there's God knows there's lots out of them, or it's a pointless experiment, and so on and so on. My fundamental objection isn't really actually the apps. You know, a lot of them I don't get, they're pointless, but it's this thing that we set out to do, that Vitalik set out to do years ago, which is to develop a decentralized application platform, and every wannabe after it, in my opinion, is so obviously a complete clusterfuck. Does that mean the price is going to zero tomorrow? No. Okay. But it doesn't mean that we can't do better. And in my opinion, we do better by starting again, because these things are just poison. They're just done with. They're over.
You know, we can start over again, but I don't think it's going to do anybody any good for me to disagree with those fundamental points with you. So I understand where you're coming from, but wholeheartedly disagree with you that whether you want to call it the existing chains and the existing experiments poison or not, obviously you're well aware that you can't stop them. And so my perspective is they're not. And my perspective is that everything that's coming because of those platforms has some value in kind of evolving and growing and moving the planet forward. And, you know, in terms of clusterfucks, that's like all of human existence. So I really can't, you know, I really can't, I'm not going to disagree with you, but trying to paint it as any one particular segment is obviously not going to work.
Yeah, and just the one thing you said there, I'm not trying to stop any
No,
of
I know
this.
that.
You know, again, you know, like everybody's free. I'm genuinely, first and foremost, a freedom maxi.
Yeah, you're not a cultist, Sean. I know you're not a cultist.
Do what you want, okay, with your money. I'm just saying that there is also responsibility on all of us in the space, particularly those of us been here for a while, to at least go, I don't think you should do that because, okay? And with respect to us disagreeing, look, dude, no market exists without a buyer and a seller. Yeah, the price don't tick. So I love the debates. I love this, and I do genuinely think about them afterwards. And I go, am I wrong? Obviously, clearly I'm not, but I will think about it.
Well, you know, I'm gonna chime in here again because you know, at the beginning of this we said, are people going to leave here listening to this and know who the clear winner is of this argument?
They do.
And there really is not. And I'll tell you why. It like
Keith, don't
so
forget that
many
10
things.
Bitcoin I offered you for adjudication, dude.
Shut up, Sean. But I'll send you my wallet address.
He's just trying to dig you out, Sean. It's okay.
No. Seriously, just like anybody's perspective on any trade or investment, right? Where your strategies matter, where your time frames matter, whether, you know, what's your perspective of the market at any given moment. If you are of the belief, similar to Sean, where you know, Ethereum is flawed because of, you know, the things that Sean mentioned, and you have strong enough conviction about that, then you will believe, you know, agree with Sean and say, well, none of these experiments can really truly be decentralized and truly succeed because, you know, the base layer is built on something I don't believe in. To Brad's point, these experiments, including the failures, have introduced the world to things that many people would never have known, including some education on how the financial system works and you know, fiat and sovereign money. And certainly now, right, that experiment has never been more vivid than as the world battles inflation. However, as Brad mentioned, the education, the things that people can do as Americans, there's so many things that that the government, Gary Gensler's fucking protecting us from, right, from our own money and our own decisions, because we're not allowed to do them because, you know, they don't think that we are responsible enough to manage our own money, or really they just want to control it. um, you know, that's a huge part of what's going on. So the scams, the things that are failing and falling apart, we're just filtering out the garbage. That when Sean said in 10 years this is all done, is it really done? I don't think so. But hopefully the space has evolved so that we've gotten past a lot of these scams and these bullshit uh, projects and all of the silliness on Twitter. That if anybody here really takes too much stock in everything that you see on Twitter, then you're already in trouble. So there are good sides to everything that's happening. You just have to, wrap your head around what's more important to you and what you really believe in. The value is there. The execution is not yet there.
Yeah, and just on that, Keith, like, what's the point on something where we're going in to debate something that we both know we're going to leave thinking? I mean, what I would say to people, including Bitcoiners, is to listen to Brad's arguments and to shitcoiners to listen to mine.
Absolutely.
Maybe just we deploy more brain cells to listening than arguing on Twitter.
Totally agree.
Well, you know what? I think it's and that speaks to a lot. When I do analysis for material indicators, you'll notice that
Keith.
We lost
Keith. And he was going to conclude brilliantly that I was right.
No, I think he's checking his wallet to see if that 10 Bitcoin is right.
You're right.
But you do know how slow the fucking blockchain is since those BRC20 assholes turned up.
Yeah, turn around Litecoin. I'd have had it already. No, so there's certainly. I had a call coming in that completely derailed me. There's certainly valid arguments to both sides of this, but the space has to evolve. And what I was saying is, you paint perspectives, you give people information and data, and let them interpret the data and the info however it fits or helps them arrive at decision, because we all have different perspectives.
Yep. I appreciate that, and I think that's a great summary, Keith. That's fantastic. Sean, as always, I always have a good time with you, and I always learn more. And I really appreciate you doing this yet again. I hope others were entertained and were able to open their minds to new ideas and new thoughts. And, if I was having this conversation with someone less reasonable and analytical and philosophical than you, it probably wouldn't have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes. So I always enjoy hearing your perspective, and the fact that we're all open to each other's is a great thing. And one of the things that I think makes this whole space more interesting and more fun every day. So thank you, Sean.
Thank you, guys. And again, Brad, I fucking enjoy it. Respect you, dude. And, there's the other thing I'd say to the younger generation. You can disagree on things and still be friends afterwards.
Yeah, you don't have to want to kill each other. It's a beautiful thing. All right, thanks,
guys,
everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, if you're not part of our community, join it. T.me/Mission DeFi, T.me/Mission DeFi. All the episodes of DeFi Lunch and Mission DeFi are found at missiondefi.com. We're on DeFi Lunch every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday at noon. And I think that's it. Keith, thank you so much for the ringside announcing. I might have to have you just do this every time. I really appreciate it, buddy. Thanks. And we'll talk to all of you. Thanks for everybody to joining us today. And we'll do some more of these and try to have some time for you guys to speak up and give your thoughts as well. I want to do more spaces where they're collaborative, where we get all that juicy stuff we get from the community during the live shows. So I'll try to be doing more of these. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day.